Tactical Blue TV, the place where badass sheepdogs read, listen, and watch unique leaders who teach the science of law enforcement, tactics, and practical skills to coach the American cop. If you're a badass, this is your new home. Now, the man who catches speeders during his lunch hour, Hector Solis.
Welcome back to Tactical Blue. This is your host, Hector Solis. I'm glad that you are back. And today I have a great topic to talk to you about, and of course, a solution to it. As you know, I talk a lot about different topics, but in my podcast, I want to focus also on the solutions to it. So first, I found this article. It's called Narcos Migrate to WhatsApp to Evade Intelligence Services. You can find this article on tacticalbluetv.com. This article comes from Borderland Beat. I collaborate with them. I get a lot of their articles, and I try to repost it on my website and my social media accounts for you guys to share and read and learn a little bit more of what's happening in Mexico. So in this article, U.S. Attorney General William Barr talks about how drug cartels are now migrating to different websites and smartphone apps. And particularly in this article, they talk about WhatsApp. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and they do have a feature where you can encrypt your messages, videos, anything that you share, audio or anything specific, and it can be encrypted, which makes it really hard for law enforcement agencies to get the information if something illegal is happening. So in this case, a lot of drug cartels in Mexico are finding that using cell phones to communicate and arrange drug trafficking transactions, even murders, carry out murders. And U.S. Attorney William Barr finds this a bad trend for law enforcement. Now, let's go a little bit more in depth on this issue with apps that are encrypted. This is nothing new, as you know, this has been happening for a while. But for example, the FBI called this trend going dark. You've probably seen the memes of people saying going dark. That doesn't mean they're, well, and some of them, I guess, but doesn't mean that they're going dark as like evil things, but going dark meaning that they are not going to communicate in you can say the normal way where everything was open to almost the public or even law enforcement agencies. Law enforcement agencies have the authority to intercept and access communications and information after obtaining a court order, a subpoena, or a warrant. Now, these technologies make it hard for us to get that information, and that's where the term comes, going dark. Now, there's two types of information that we seek as law enforcement professionals. Real-time court orders like phone calls, email, text messages, chat sessions. So that means that they are happening at this moment. The second type, what is called data at rest. And those are, for example, data that is stored in devices such as email, text messages, photos, videos, chat sessions, anything that is stored in your phone as a backup or videos, anything like that. It's called data at rest. So it's just there, it's not moving. So it is hard for us to get that type of communications because of the CALEA, the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, which was enacted in 1994, only applies to traditional communication carriers, voice over internet protocol services, as well as providers of broadband access services, just like the big, like Time Warner Cable, AT&T, things like that. Those laws applies to them, but these laws are not up to date. They do not apply to some aspects of Facebook. or Pinterest or any of those social media networks where there are communications with, you can have communication between people, groups, etc. This is a challenge that we're going to encounter no matter what. So the best thing to do is to continue learning what are the best course of action to avoid going dark ourselves. So a few years ago in 2018, now former FBI director James Comey, he gave this speech and talked about different aspects of going dark. And I'm going to kind of summarize what he said. I found this article. You can find this article in my page, tacticalbluetv.com. I'm going to write an article about this podcast, and you can find the article specifically what I'm talking about in there. So, as you know, and mentioned before, thousands of companies provide some form of a communication service. All right. Majority, like I said, they're not required by statute to provide lawful intercepts capabilities to law enforcement. No, what does that mean? In order from a judge to give you a warrant to monitor the suspect's communication, may amount to nothing due to the laws that I mentioned before, the CALEA. So that is a problem that we're encountering. Also, new hardware, as for example, iPhone X, iPhone 5, etc., whatever it is, the new operating systems, the more information might be stored on the device itself, which means companies themselves won't be able to unlock phones, laptops, or tablets to reveal any photos or documents, emails, because they are creating you can call it a super encryption, which is good for anybody if you want to put your information there, your bank accounts, passwords, things like that. But at the same time, bad guys are using it to their advantage. So some of these companies are saying, well, like a lot of people, when, for example, I have an iPhone, I can upload all my information to the cloud, and that cloud service is accessible to law enforcement agencies after they obtain a warrant or any legal means through a judge. But uploading to the cloud doesn't mean that it will include all the stored data in your phone, including the bad guy's phone. So this can potentially create a black hole for law enforcement, because we're going to have missing data. Maybe a bad guy, yes, will upload certain photos, personal photos, but will not upload their, personal notes, where, for example, for drug trafficking, they might have notes on, who owns money, how much, etc., spreadsheets, things like that. That might not be on the cloud, because as a user, you can select what you want in the cloud and what you don't. So some argue that we will still have the metadata. So metadata means any information that has, for example, the date, the time, locations, like GPS locations. But yes, that might help. It is true that it might help, but metadata is not going to help solve a crime, or not all crimes. It might solve, for example, a hit and run. You can prove that the person was at a certain time at a certain location, but it's not going to prove, like, again, mentioning the drug trafficking or human trafficking, how many people they have, like, trafficking, or how much kilos are they moving and things like that. So that's why it's important as law enforcement agencies, we have access to all the information we can, and we decide to sort it out. I know a lot of the information with encryption and it's a big deal with, for example, like terrorist attacks, active shooters, things like that, major crimes that impact not only the victims, but society itself. But majority of the information for law enforcement it comes from local agencies, anything from murder, car crashes, domestic abuse, child exploitation. And I'm going to go through some examples of what is going on. First, we're going to touch on the major any major events. One of them that was really famous and still being debated right now is the terrorist attacks in San Bernardino, California. As you remember, there was a couple who decided to turn against Americans, and they decided to pledge their alliance to ISIS. And in that situation, they were convinced or manipulated, if you can say that, to do active shooter or mass shooting. So they started, they went to a Christmas party, they left, and they came back and started killing a bunch of people. Well, during that investigation, the FBI found iPhone. In the iPhone, they believed that there was more information related to the mass shooting, which it could help, find more information if there were more attacks coming, anything, like to expand their investigation. So what happened was, since the phone had an encryption and the FBI was not able to get in, they asked Apple to break into the phone and extract all the information. Well, Apple say no. They say that they're not going to do that. And even, like I said, presented any documents signed by the judge, they say no, we're not going to do it. Again, because CALEA doesn't apply to certain things in what they were asking for. So that's one of the major crimes. They, FBI, federal agencies use encryption and trying to break into the encryption. But we also have, some local events that happen. Some of those events are multi-state crimes. For example, homicides that cross state lines, any crimes, any crimes really that cross state lines, large public protests, active shooters, like I mentioned before. Sometimes the FBI or state agencies, like for example, here in Texas, the Texas Department of Public Safety are able to monitor social media and get into different groups and find out what's going on, if there is going to be a protest with violence or it's just a normal protest, like people screaming back and forth, whatever. So now let's focus on medium and small towns. In this situation where medium small towns, I'm going to give you some examples of how technology has helped these agencies solve different crimes. One example is police investigated the death of a 2-year-old girl from blunt force trauma to her head. There were no witnesses at the time, but text messages stored in her parents' cell phone to one another and to family members proved that the mother caused the young girl's death, and the father knew what was happening and he failed to stop. So they were convicted on that information. In Sacramento, a young couple and their 4 dogs were walking down the street at night when a car ran the red light and struck them, killing their 4 dogs, severing the young man's leg and leaving the young woman in critical condition. Of course, the driver left the scene and the young man died a few days later, unfortunately. Using the red light cameras near the scene of the accident, the California Highway Patrol identified and arrested the suspect, seized his smartphone, and again, using GPS data on his phone, placed the suspect at the scene at the same time, revealing that he fled from California shortly thereafter. He was convicted of a second-degree murder, and now he was sentenced to 25 years to life. Now, the evidence we find could help also exonerate innocent people. In Kansas, data from cell phone was used to prove the innocence of several teens accused of rape. Without access to their phone and the deleted videos, several innocent people could go to jail. And definitely not pretty and not good for us if we're taking the wrong people to jail. As you see, there are a lot of examples here. Another good one right here from Chicago. We have the Chicago police announced the different illegal sales of drugs and firearms through Facebook groups. Now, Chicago PD complained to Facebook, and they didn't do anything. Of course, you know that deal. Throughout the investigation, officers infiltrated several Facebook groups and made 147 undercover purchases, and a total of 65 people were identified in the groups. 53 of them were arrested, and they are in custody. Now, the Chicago police became aware of the secret Facebook group in 2017 when officials announced 50 people had been arrested and 18 guns seized through the platform. Detectives also found that people were using Facebook encrypted messaging service to make sales. So as you see, bad guys are using these technologies, which big companies make for majority of people, because you want to, if you own a business or you have some trademark, you don't want other people to steal your information, and you want to protect it. And that makes sense. They might be saying, we want to do the right thing and help the public, but of course, like anything, bad guys will use it to do bad things. Now, in Las Vegas, there was another investigation where this guy named Climo, he said he considered different ways to kill Jewish people, and he complained that he hasn't decided which way to kill more people. And some of them were also like the LGBT community in Las Vegas. Now, after the investigation concluded, also in 2017, they discovered that he began communicating with members from a neo-Nazi group. And the members of such group, they were communicating online and using encrypted messaging. So as you see, there are plenty of examples out there where local law enforcement agencies are encountering this type of situations with encrypted data. On the other side, we have people who are debating whether this is stuff is happening. Is the going dark is happening. For example, we have a report from the Operational Technology Division of the FBI, and their report concluded that none of the FBI public testimony was false. It did not have the capability to access iPhone's contact, because some people are saying that we have, as a law enforcement agency, the FBI, that they had the technology. But what happened was a poor internal communication delayed the FBI from finding a technical solution. However, multiple senior agents also told the IG's office that some within the FBI didn't want to find a solution because it will potentially nullify the Bureau's effort to legally force Apple to break into the encryption, as mentioned before. We also have the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is the leading nonprofit organization defending civil liberties in the digital world. They have an article, and I highlight right here, this is part of the committee where they were talking about the FBI and the DOJ Office of Inspector General, and they say, as the committee letter points out, the light of a recent report about the ability of unlocking tools developed by a third party and the OIG report findings that the Bureau was uninterested in seeking available third-party option. These statistics appear hardly questionable. And they have an article here from Motherboard Investigation, revealed that law enforcement agencies across the United States have purchased or have at least shown interest in purchasing devices developed by a company called Grayshift. The Atlanta-based company sells a device called Gray Key, a roughly 4x4-inch box that has successfully cracked several iPhone models, including the most recent iPhone X. Oh, this article is from 2018. Now we have the iPhone XL. As you see, there are third parties out there who provide different software or hardware to find information in this encrypted phone. Some work, some don't. I talked to different officers who work in that area, and yeah, they told me that some are easier than others, depending, especially older iPhones where the company is not like updating things anymore. It's easier for them to find the information in the encrypted phone. But now, how do we, as small agencies, small, medium departments, how do we find this information, and how do we help ourselves to find bad guys using different technology and trying to create a system for us to share information? And think about it. If you have a murder and that certain cell phone was used or it was in the area, who do you call? Do you call the the carrier? Do you call iPhone if you find a cell phone? There's a lot of misconception out there what to do. I talk to a lot of officers. Everybody tells me different things. Throughout the research of this podcast, I found a solution that I never knew about. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but now I'm giving it to you for your agency to use. The National Domestic Communications Assistance Center. Sounds complicated, right? But let's look at what it is. The National Domestic Communications Assistance Center, NDCAC, has 4 core functions. Number 1, law enforcement coordination. Number 2, industry relations. Number 3, technology sharing. And number 4, CALIA implementation. So there are roughly about 18,000 federal, state, and local and tribal law enforcement agencies in the country. But we didn't have any centralized point to provide coordinated technical assistance. No leverage to research and develop efforts for finding this information on how to find information in encrypted data, and no seamless mechanism to find a solution available to the law enforcement community. Now, this agency is located in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and it's been open since 2013, early 2013. It is staffed with technical experts dedicated to supporting the law enforcement community. So what exactly they offer, and what are the benefits of joining this assistance center? So they develop, maintain, and deliver tools to address law enforcement technical challenges at no cost to law enforcement. So this program was created for small, medium agencies. So if you work for a small, medium agency, or even if you work for a big agency and you don't know about this program, definitely you need to join in. They leverage training and tools developed by other agencies to share with the community. So all these communities, if you might have a big agency who knows how to do certain things, they share it in this community. It is passed through the technical advisors in the center, and once approved, they put it out there for everybody to use. So, and they also strengthen the law enforcement relationships with the communication industry through active interaction, including technical discussions and service of process consultations. Very good, very good. So now we have some technical knowledge out there that they offer. They offer catalogs with information about communication application, different app feature evaluation, technical white papers. That means, technical papers with in-depth information, kind of IT stuff. Also, they offer instructional videos, legal processes, meaning they offer drafts of warrants for you to use for text messages, warrants for Facebook messages, warrants for different apps or different, depending on what data you're looking for, they provide that. They also have the industry points of contact, one stop for over 4,000 providers. You can also register for training, learn the best practices, collections, seizure of mobile devices for first responders, cellular survey analysis, utilizing open source and social media for investigation, and more. It is important to contact them if you develop any probable cause, get your warrant out there for certain cell phone, and sometimes you receive a lot of technical information from the telecommunication agencies or from Facebook or whatever. So it's important for you to contact them because they will help you sort it out. Now I'm gonna give you the way to contact them. If you want to email them, go to askndcac@fbi.gov, or you can call directly at 855-306-3222. I called them earlier about, my agency doesn't have these services with the NDCAT, and the gentleman, the answer, he was he was amazing. He provided a lot of information. They give you a specific website that you're supposed to save in your browser, and that's for logging in as a law enforcement agency or to sign up as well. And I'm gonna do it when I go back to work here in a little bit, in an hour. So this information is fantastic. I hope it can help you out. There's solutions out there. It's a matter of research. Here at Tactical Blue TV, I like to do the research for you and try to find solutions, as free as possible. I understand some agencies don't have the money to do all this stuff, so the FBI and other agencies have implemented and put some money aside for you guys to have all these solutions and all these services. So if you like this podcast, please share it on all kinds of Apple iTunes and all kinds of podcasts out there, podcast providers. And if you like it, please share on Facebook, on your favorite anything like that, and also, if you want to read more articles and listen to more podcasts, go to tacticalbluetv.com. Thank you again. As a sergeant, please, I implore you to be safe out there. Watch your six. Make sure you take care of each other because we don't have a lot of help out there. We only have each other. So thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Tactical Blue. If you know other sheepdogs, share this episode.